All right, let's dive in. We've got a juicy one today. Thatchers versus Aldi.
Ooh, yeah, this one's a good one.
I know, right? Tons of you sent this in wanting the breakdown on, well, what happened? What did the court actually decide, and what does it mean for brands trying to, well, protect themselves?
Big questions.
Yeah, big questions. And we're going right to the source for this one, folks. The actual court judgment.
We love getting into the nitty-gritty.
Oh, absolutely. So we're going to see how Aldi got accused of basically riding Thatcher's coattails and how a judge had to, seriously analyze the designs on those cider cans.
The design police
Yeah.
in action.
Right. All right, so set the scene for us. Who are the players here?
Okay, so you've got Thatchers, the classic cider maker.
Right.
Traditional, known for quality.
Yeah, I mean, they've been around forever.
Exactly.
Fair.
And then on the other side of the ring, you've got Aldi,
The supermarket heavyweight.
the king of, brands, only cheaper.
Okay, so that price difference, that's got to be important here, right?
Oh, it's at the heart of it. Thatchers sued Aldi because they said, hey, your Taurus Cloudy Lemon cider, it's way too similar to our Cloudy Lemon.
Ah, so they thought Aldi was trying to trick people into buying the wrong one.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
They said it was trademark infringement.
Okay, so what's the trademark exactly? The name.
Well, the name, obviously. But in this case, it's more than that Thatchers actually had a registered trademark for the can design itself.
Interesting. So it's not just about what's written on it, it's the whole look.
Exactly. And this particular can, it was different from their usual style.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of lemons, really emphasized the lemon thing.
Okay, and Aldi's can, it was similar.
Oh, yeah, similar enough that Thatchers wasn't happy. And here's the kicker. Aldi actually admitted that they used Thatcher's Cloudy Lemon as, a benchmark.
So they were intentionally trying to copy it.
In a way, yeah.
Yeah.
They wanted to match the quality, but obviously sell it cheaper.
Which makes sense for Aldi, right? That's their whole thing.
Exactly. But that's where it gets legally tricky.
Yeah.
How far can you go with that emulating before it's like crossing a line?
So it's not just do the cans look similar, there's more to it.
Way more trademark law. It's got layers.
Layers.
Yeah, like different levels of protection. First, you've got double identity. Basically, the products and trademarks are, identical.
Okay, so that's
Yep.
pretty straightforward.
Right. Then there's likelihood of confusion. So, could someone actually mistake one product for the other?
Ah, so that's getting a bit more nuanced.
Exactly. And then, the big one in this case, unfair advantage.
Unfair advantage, huh? So Thatcher's felt Aldi was being, sneaky?
Basically, yeah, Thatcher's argument was that Aldi was trying to capitalize on their reputation.
Ooh, I see. Like all the work Thatcher's did to build their brand, Aldi's just swoops in and tries to benefit from it.
Exactly. Free riding.
And that's not allowed.
Not if it's unfair. This unfair advantage thing, it's not new. It's been around. There's case law.
Okay, any famous examples?
Well, the court actually brought up this case, L'Oreal versus Ballure.
The lure.
Yeah, the perfume case.
Oh, wait a minute. I think I vaguely remember this one. Remind me.
So there was this company, they were making, imitation perfumes.
Right.
And they even gave stores comparison charts, linking their scents to, famous L'Oreal ones. Totally. And the court said, nope, you can't do that. They were exploiting L'Oreal's reputation, basically piggybacking on their success.
Okay, so I'm seeing the parallels here. Thatcher's is saying Aldi's doing the same thing, just with cider.
Bingo. They were saying Aldi was deliberately trying to make people think of Thatcher's when they saw the Aldi can.
So Aldi's playing a little mind game with the shoppers.
Trying to. The idea is, if you think of Thatcher's, you think quality,
Right.
but Aldi's is cheaper, so you go for that one.
Clever, but also kind of sneaky. So what did the judge say about the cans themselves? Did she think they were too similar?
This is where it gets interesting. She actually went through a whole side-by-side comparison.
No way. She actually, held up the cans and was like,
Pretty much. She noted the shared elements, the lemons, the yellow background, but she also pointed out the differences. The branding was obviously different, and there were these swooshes on the Aldi can.
swooshes.
Yeah, like little design elements.
So it wasn't a clear win for Thatcher's then?
Not at first, no. The judge initially said Aldi did not infringe on the trademark.
Wait, seriously? But you said the cans looked similar, and Aldi even admitted they were using Thatcher's as a model.
Yeah, but here's the twist. She also found that Aldi did want people to think of Thatcher's when they saw their can.
Hold on, so they weren't trying to trick people into thinking it was Thatcher's, but they wanted them to make that connection in their heads.
Exactly. That's the fine line they were walking.
So they're playing with fire, but not quite getting burned.
For now. Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat. What happened next?
Well, then the judge started looking at Aldi's sales figures.
Ooh, interesting. What's the relevance there?
Thatchers claimed those sales were suspiciously high for a new product, especially since Aldi didn't do a lot of advertising for it. Ah, so they're saying, look, it's obvious they're benefiting from our reputation.
Exactly. That's their argument. They're making bank because everyone's thinking of Thatchers when they see that
Did the judge buy it?
This is where it gets even more complicated. She actually sided with Aldi on that one.
What? How come?
She said the sales figures weren't unusual when compared to their other tourist ciders.
So she's saying, hey, maybe people just really like Aldi cider.
Right. But Thatchers, they weren't done. They hit back with another argument.
Oh, this is getting good. What did they say?
They claimed that Aldi's other tourist ciders, not just the Cloudy Lemon one, were also mimicking another big brand.
Oh, wait, don't tell me. Strongbow.
Yeah, I did. Thatcher's basically saying, hey, this isn't just about our Cloudy Lemon. It's about their whole strategy. Like they're mimicking Strongbow with their other ciders, too.
Ooh, so they're widening the scope, trying to show a pattern.
Exactly. And that's where things get really interesting. Because that's when the initial ruling gets completely overturned.
What? Seriously? So Aldi thought they were in the clear, and then bam.
Damn. The Court of Appeal stepped in and said, nope, Aldi did take unfair advantage of Thatchers.
Wow. So even though the first judge was like, it's fine, the higher court was like, hold up, you've gone too far.
Exactly.
This case is like a legal thriller. What was their reasoning?
The Court of Appeal, they agreed that some of the things, like the lemons and the colors, those are common in cider packaging. But they said Aldi's intention, that's what mattered. They were deliberately trying to create this image of a cheaper alternative to Thatchers.
So they weren't just inspired by Thatchers, they were using Thatchers to sell their product.
Right. And the court said, that's not cool. It's unfair competition.
Wow, so it's not just about how the product looks, it's about the strategy behind it.
Exactly. Big implications for brands, right?
Huge. We'll have to dive into those after the break. I mean, this whole thing, it really makes you think, like, what does this mean for other brands, especially smaller ones, going up against, well, giants like Aldi?
Right. It's a big deal. This ruling, it could make it easier for smaller brands to protect themselves, from bigger companies trying to, ride their coattails.
So if a small company can prove that a competitor, intentionally copied them to get an unfair advantage, they've got a stronger case now.
Absolutely. It's all about proving that the competitor wasn't just, inspired by a general style. You have to show they were specifically targeting your brand, trying to, steal your thunder.
This feels like a win for brand owners, right? Especially those who maybe don't have tons of money for lawyers and stuff.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It shows that courts are, taking this seriously.
Yeah.
They're willing to protect businesses from, unfair competition. But there's another side to this.
No. What's that?
Some people say that, if trademark protection gets too strict, it could actually stifle competition.
How so?
Well, help about it. If companies are too afraid to make products that might resemble existing ones, because they're worried about lawsuits, it could lead to less choice for consumers.
Ah, I see. So less innovation, maybe even higher prices.
Potentially. Yeah. It's a balancing act.
So how do companies, walk that line? How do they innovate and compete without getting in trouble?
It's tricky, right?
Huh.
It comes down to being smart about your design choices and, your whole marketing strategy. If you're blatantly copying someone else, trying to confuse customers,
Yeah.
that's when you're in dangerous territory.
So inspiration is okay, but straight up imitation, not so much.
Right. And especially if you're trying to, mislead people about the quality or the source of the product, that's a big no-no.
It's like that whole fake designer handbag thing, but for groceries.
Exactly. This case, it really highlights how much, psychology is involved in branding.
Oh, yeah, for sure. We make decisions based on what we see, what we recognize. Right?
Totally. It's all about creating those associations in the consumer's mind.
So even if we know, logically that it's a different brand, we might still be influenced by those familiar designs.
Right. It's fascinating, isn't it? But hey, speaking of branding and perception, there's another juicy detail in this judgment we haven't even touched on yet.
Ooh, lay it on me. What is it?
It's about Aldi's ingredients, or rather, the lack thereof.
What do you mean?
Remember how Aldi was aiming to match Thatcher's quality, but at a lower price?
Yeah, they wanted the best of both worlds.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Thatcher's made a big deal about their Cloudy Lemon being made with real lemons.
Right.
Right? It was their selling point.
Yeah, I remember that. Real lemons, real refreshment, or something like that.
Right. Well, Aldi. They use the phrase made with premium fruit on their cans.
Oh, clever wording. So they were implying real lemons, even if they weren't using them.
Bingo. The small print, it said they used a mix of acids and natural lemon flavoring.
So not exactly premium fruit then, huh?
Not quite. And this whole thing, it ties into that unfair advantage idea again.
How so?
Well, Aldi's creating a product that looks similar, implies similar quality,
Yeah.
but they're using cheaper ingredients, so they can undercut Thatcher's price big time.
Sneaky. Did the judge say anything about this premium fruit wording?
She did. She actually pointed out that it could mislead consumers.
Ah, so Aldi's in trouble again.
Not really.
Yeah.
She ultimately decided that it didn't damage Thatcher's reputation.
Really? How come?
She figured that once people realized what was going on, they'd blame Aldi, not Thatcher's. Like they'd be annoyed at Aldi for being sneaky rather than thinking Thatcher's was somehow involved in the trickery.
So Aldi gets off scot-free.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But it does raise questions about, like, honesty and branding.
Yeah. Consumers are getting smarter, right? They want real ingredients, authentic products.
Absolutely. And this case shows how companies are trying to, like, walk that line.
Trying to find the loopholes, maybe.
Right. So it's a good reminder for all of us to, like, read the labels carefully. Don't just go by the big, flashy claims.
Don't judge a cider by its can.
Yeah.
Right.
This whole thing, it's a tangled web of, like, legal stuff, ethical questions. It really makes you think about what makes a brand, well, a brand.
Totally. And how far companies can go to compete.
Right. So what's the big takeaway for our listeners today? What should they be keeping in mind when they're, choosing their next cider?
Besides reading the label carefully, of course.
Of course. Well, I think the main thing is building a brand. It's a long game. It takes time, effort, creativity to create something unique that people connect with.
And this case shows that, that effort deserves to be protected.
Exactly. You can't just come along and, copy someone else's success. That's not how it works.
So what about companies like Aldi that have built their whole thing on offering, brands only cheaper?
They need to be careful, right? This case sets a precedent. Courts are going to be looking closely at their strategies.
So it's not just about what the product looks like anymore. It's about the intent behind it.
Exactly. This ruling is basically saying, hey, you want to play in this game, you got to come up with your own moves.
Love it. You can't just borrow someone else's playbook.
Right. Building a brand, it means innovating, taking risks, standing out. You can't just ride someone else's coattails forever.
All right, there you have it, folks. A deep dive into Thatchers versus Aldi. This case, it goes beyond just Aldi pushing the boundaries. It's like they exposed a flaw in the system itself.
You're talking about how they went after the whole idea of unfair advantage, like challenging the very foundation of it.
Yeah. They wanted the court to reconsider that L'Oreal versus Ballure ruling. The perfume case, the one that basically shaped how we understand this whole riding on someone's coattails thing.
Bold move, right?
Super bold.
Yeah.
And, well, did it work?
Not really. It was a long shot. The court wasn't convinced. But it does bring up some interesting questions.
Like what?
Well, Aldi's argument was that, trademark law is getting too broad. That it's actually hindering competition.
So they're basically saying, hey, we're just trying to make affordable products for people. If we can't even be inspired by existing designs, then what?
Exactly. They're saying that, focusing so much on intention makes things really difficult for businesses. How are you supposed to prove what you were thinking?
And they're worried about less choice for consumers.
Right.
Higher prices.
Right, because if everyone has to come up with completely new designs all the time, it's going to cost more. Right. And maybe there'll be less variety on the shelves.
I mean, it makes sense. It's like if every car company had to design their cars from scratch, no one would be able to afford a car.
Right. They even pointed out that in some countries, like Germany, where Aldi's from, what they did might not even have been illegal.
Wow. So different countries have different rules about this stuff.
Totally. But anyway, the court here, they listened to all these arguments, but ultimately they weren't swayed.
They stuck with the current system.
Yeah. They said, look, trademarks are important. They protect brands. They prevent confusion. If we let companies just copy each other willy-nilly, what's the point?
This is about maintaining order, fairness.
Right. You can't just borrow someone else's success, even if you say you're doing it for the consumers.
But Aldi does say they're doing it for the consumer. They're all about low prices, making things accessible.
Yeah. And that's a tricky argument. But the court is basically saying, look, there are other ways to offer low prices. You don't have to copy someone else's product.
It's like be creative, find your own way.
Exactly. Innovate, don't imitate.
So what's the message for companies like Aldi moving forward? They're kind of known for this brands only cheaper approach.
They got to be careful, right? This case sets a precedent. Courts are going to be looking closely at their products, their marketing.
Looking for that intention, that deliberate attempt to copy.
Right. If they're trying to ride someone else's coattails, they're going to get called out.
So it's not just about the product anymore, it's about the strategy, the thinking behind it.
Exactly. This ruling is saying you want to be in the game, play fair.
I love that. Play fair, be original, create something new.
Exactly. Consumers are getting smarter. They can tell when something's a cheap knockoff.
And they want authenticity, right? Something that's genuine, not just a copycat.
Absolutely. So yeah, I think the big takeaway here is brand building, it matters. It's not just about slapping a logo on something. It's about creating something unique, something that people value.
And that takes effort, creativity, a real vision.
Right. You can't just shortcut your way to success.
Well said. I think we've squeezed all the juice out of this case, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. From trademark law to consumer psychology, this one had it all.
Thanks for breaking it all down for us. It's been fascinating.
My pleasure. Always happy to dive deep.
And to our listeners, thank you for sending in this amazing case. Keep those suggestions coming. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and always read the label.